Grateful to be here with all of you today, and I'll broadly speak today on the topic of how karma and bhakti interact and how it matters for us. So I'll start by asking a few questions and then take the answer as a starting point. So, what is your understanding of the word karma? What does karma mean? Yes.
Yeah, different things in different contexts. So, for example, karma could also refer to work. It can also refer to some sort of reaction, and an action within reaction.
That's quite a technical. It's good analysis. You heard a class or something on this? Or you thought about it yourself?
No, I heard a class.
Okay. Nice. So karma, this word can have many different meanings. The person is action. We all have to do our karma. Or we can never stop doing karma. In the sense that we are always active. We have to do action. Then we can say reaction. Nobody can escape their karma. We all have to endure our karma. That means we have to endure our karmic reactions. Now beyond that, karma can also refer to the action-reaction correlation. The law of karma is universal. What does that mean? That means if there is a particular action, there will be a particular result of that action. That law of karma is universal. It's an infallible form of justice. That is one. Now karma can also refer to one kind of action. There are three kinds of action broadly. Anyone remember the three kinds of actions?
Vikarma.
Yes. Karma is, we could say, good action. Vikarma is bad action. Or you can say karma is action that gives positive reactions. Vikarma is action that gives negative reactions. And third is akarma. Asakarma and karma is the same thing. Akarma is action that gives no reactions. So these are all the various possible meanings of the word karma. Now the broad topic I am discussing is how karma and bhakti interact. So we discussed karma. Now let's discuss what is bhakti. Any thoughts? Most of you are living in this Bhakti Centre. So what is bhakti? Don't think too much, just whatever comes to your mind. Devotion.
To Bhagavan.
Yes, devotion. In Prabhupada talk about devotion to the Lord. We can have devotion to other things also, but in general, devotion is most fulfilling when directed toward the Supreme Lord. So devotion, to make it more specific, devotion to the Lord. To Bhagavan. Anything else?
It's a service, it's an act.
Okay, it's action, so it's service
It's not
or action. That's why Prabhupada translated bhakti as devotional service, not just as devotion. Okay. Anything else?
It's voluntary. It's
Okay.
spontaneous.
Okay, so those are characteristics of devotion. It's true.
There's no reaction.
Bhakti is action which has no reaction. That's we're going to come to that. The difference of relation between karma and bhakti. We'll come to that surely.
No expectations.
Okay, it's done without any expectations. Whereas karma is done with some expectations, like that.
Yeah, something like
Yeah, we'll come to that. We'll talk about the karma and bhakti correlation.
Without selfishness.
Let me sorry.
Without selfishness.
Without selfishness, so it's unselfish. Let's come to that. But before that,
And absolute purity.
Absolute purity, yeah.
So Krishna's pleasure.
Okay, we're coming to the characters of bhakti right now. Yes, I'm now to look at the characters of bhakti. There's a broad, you could say, definition of bhakti.
No bhakti.
Navida bhakti is there. Okay, I am practicing bhakti right now. We are all bhakti practitioners. So what does this mean? Does this fit in any of these three meanings? We are practicing bhakti.
Designation?
Sorry?
Like a designation or occupation.
Designation occupation. So we're like somebody is practicing law,
Yeah.
or somebody is practicing medicine, and practicing bhakti like that. Yeah? That's interesting. Is it a designation? Yeah, it could be a designation. Although one aspect of bhakti is that bhakti ultimately takes us beyond all designations. Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam, Bhakti says. When we are using the word practicing bhakti, it refers to something like bhakti is devotion, but it is also the process for developing devotion. Isn't it? I may or may not have devotion now, but I'm practicing bhakti. You can say I'm experiencing bhakti, I'm relishing bhakti, or I'm practicing bhakti. When practicing bhakti means I'm practicing the process that will nurture devotion in the heart eventually. So now, with this, there could be many other subtler connotations also of these two words, bhakti and karma. Now, let's now try to look at the interrelation between the two. You got a broad understanding of their meanings. So, now, can one be doing karma and bhakti together? So if I consider this is one circle, this is another circle. So this is the karma circle, the bhakti circle. Do the two overlap in any way? Or do the two coincide? Or the two are completely non-intersecting? Any thoughts?
Yes, they can overlap.
They can overlap. So, in what sense will they overlap? In which meaning of the word karma?
When the activity is done.
Yes. Karma as action. So, if you consider bhakti is like a big circle, within that anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavutam. So, karma is a part of bhakti. So, when we do bhakti, bhakti involves the cultivation of knowledge. The bhakti involves the execution of action. However, what we talked about earlier, the action that is done in karma is different from the action that is the action that is done in bhakti. Often the action done in karma is motivated by some desire for material gain. I work because I want to become wealthy. I study because I want to be famous as an excellent student. So there is, in one sense, in general, karma is basically action. But often around karma, there is an avarana. Avarana is covering. So, at its core, karma is action. But the covering around it, that is of our motivation. And generally it's a self-centered motivation. So when that self-centered motivation goes away, then what happens is, when that self-centered motivation goes away, then we are able to practice bhakti without any problem. So this is some kind of selfish motivation is there. Generally, that's if there is nothing that I am going to gain from something, then why should I do anything at all? That is the general idea. But so this is, you could say, karma in general. But anya bhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam. So within karma, within bhakti is what? This is karma, and that avaran that is there, that is thrown away. That okay, I had those motivations, but I don't have those motivations anymore. So this is karma within bhakti. A devotee, when practicing karma, or when doing action rather, we don't say devotee is practicing karma, devotee is doing action, it is for a higher purpose. Ultimately, it's for the purpose of pleasing Krishna, serving Krishna. Now, it may not be always that the higher purpose alone is our motivation, At least the higher purpose is our aspiration. And that's why there are pure devotees who are only motivated by the desire to please Krishna, and there are mixed devotees. Yeah, I certainly want to please Krishna, but I want to please myself also. Yeah, when I sing, I want to please Krishna when I sing Kirtan, but I want others to also appreciate how good I sing that I am. If I give a class, yeah, I want to glorify Krishna, I want to help others become attracted to Krishna, but I also want others to be impressed how clever I am. So that is mixed devotion. So that is the stage where we are at, and gradually from there we will move gradually towards pure devotion. So now, why is this topic important to discuss? It's not just a conceptually interesting subject. It could be conceptually interesting for some, conceptually not interesting for some. But practically, when we act, our actions have consequences. And what kind of consequences do we want? When we function in the world, we all need practical things. We need wealth, we need position, we need certain utilities in life. And that's how we will be functioning. That's perfectly normal. It is not that those have to be given up. But it is that is not our sole motivation. Nor is that our primary motivation. If somebody is giving a class, if I am giving a class, at a basic level, I do want to communicate in a way that my audience can understand, my audience can appreciate. Not just appreciate me, but rather appreciate the subject, appreciate the importance of Krishna. So that means when we are acting, there is an immediate context in which we act. And there is a bigger context. The bigger context is that I want to please my spiritual master, I want to please Krishna. So when a devotee functions, this is the key difference. If there's a devotee and there's some other person. So normally is, I do something for you, you do something for me. That's the normal reciprocation. That is there. This is a devotee and another person. The normal reciprocation is just between the two of us. But for a devotee, there is Krishna. And when a devotee is acting, the devotee's action is not just meant for this person. The same action, you could say, is also being done to please Krishna. And then there is a reciprocation coming from Krishna. And that reciprocation from Krishna could also, one of the forms of Krishna's reciprocation could also come through this person's action. That means when we try to do something for someone, that person reciprocates with us. So then we also feel that our actions is being fulfilled is at a practical level. Say we decide to share Bhagavad give a Bhagavad Gita to someone. We are distributing books. Some people take the Gita, some people don't take the Gita. When we take, we feel that, oh, not only the person takes, but the person very appreciative. I'll read it. Then what happens is that reciprocation is coming to that particular direct person also. But even if that reciprocation doesn't come, a devotee is not doing it only for that purpose. A devotee is seeking to please Krishna. So, in that sense, our every action, it can have an immediate context, and that action can have an ultimate context. So, if we are acting, our action has multiple contexts, the immediate context. And the immediate context is generally the context where karma is happening. So the immediate context is not unimportant, but it is not all important. So let's try to understand this with the example that Srila Prabhupada was trying to share bhakti in India. And what happened was, because of various reasons, three main reasons, India had just gone through a lot of political turbulence, and at that time, there was a lot of hope for political solutions, political upliftment. India was also hoping to emulate the West, and there was an infatuation with the West. And also because of generations of colonial rule, there was also a certain level of poverty. So there was the economic, political, and the cultural factors, because of which people were just not very receptive to bhakti spirituality. So, now, Srila Prabhupada's guru, who was Prabhupada's guru? Bhakti Thakur was very, very vigorous about sharing Krishna Bhakti. Outreach, he says, if you have life, you should share Krishna Bhakti, you should preach. So he even said that even if nobody comes to a program, you preach to the walls. Now, that was an instruction that Prabhupada, Bhakti Thakur, who was also known as Prabhupada, gave. But Prabhupada, our Prabhupada, didn't take that instruction literally. When Indians were not really coming, Indians not really taking this seriously, he didn't say, okay, let me just preach to the walls. Okay, how can I be effective? We found that, okay, in the immediate context, things are not working out. Then let's change the immediate context. Indians are attracted to the Westerners, so let's go to the West. Let's share Krishna Bhakti in the West. If they take it up, then seeing them, Indians will also take it up. So that means, if we consider a devotee functions in the immediate context that they are in, and a devotee seeks results for Krishna's sake. And if the results don't come, the devotee decides, should I continue the service or should I do some other service? That immediate context matters, but it is not all that matters. So now Prabhupada had been trying to share Krishna Bhakti for 30-40 years in India before that. So when it was not happening, normally if somebody tries a business and they do it for 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30, 40 years they do and they don't get much success. Generally they become disheartened. Many times people become bitter. Why nothing's worked out? But when Prabhupada went to America and was sharing Krishna Bhakti, he was all alone, he was an unknown Swami, and he's walking on the street, some often drug-addled hippies would come and they would talk with him. But they noticed Swamiji was so content. Like they were walking on Prabhupada would meet people on the streets of New York. There's big lorries going along on the streets, vehicles going very fast. And Prabhupada seemed completely unfazed, undistracted. It was as if he was rooted in some other reality, while being also on the pavement of New York. So, Prabhupada never became bitter because he was satisfied in the principle that he was serving Krishna. He wanted the specific, and the service should have results. But if the results was not coming, he was not disheartened. So we could put this on the extreme. So when I'm talking about the relationship Bhakti and Karma, we could put it as Bhakti Karma relationship is like the relationship between the ultimate and immediate contexts. The ultimate context is Bhakti is done to please Krishna. Karma is we do a particular action seeking a particular result. If we are cooking food, we want the food to be cooked nicely. We say, I don't care how the food tastes. Well, okay, you don't care, that's okay. But you are serving. The service is to make food, and for Krishna's pleasure, for those who are coming to Krishna, their pleasure, you need to cook properly. So one extreme attitude is immediate is all important, is all that matters. That is one extreme of the pendulum. And generally when a person performs karma, the karma in the sense of their material activity, that the immediate is all that matters. This is just karma. Now the other extreme is, can you guess what it will be? The other extreme what it will be?
Adult context.
Yeah. It focuses on the immediate, doesn't matter at all. So all that matters is the ultimate. And this is the broad idea of the Jnana Marga. This is not Jnana. This is more the Karma Marga. This is the Marga is path. The Jnana Marga is this world is illusion, this world is Maya. Ultimately nothing is going to change in this world. Why bother about it? At all. So the immediate doesn't matter at all. This is actually not the teaching of Jnana Yoga also. It's a misapplication or misunderstanding of Jnana Yoga. So There's some historical thinkers, some historians, especially philosophical historians, they say one of the reasons why India fell so often to invaders from various parts of the world. India was a huge country, prosperous and powerful country, and yet so many invaders came, and often the invading armies were much smaller than the armies of the people who were residing there. The kings who were residing, the kings could have allied together. But one of the reasons why they fell is that India was pervaded with these voidist or impersonal monistic philosophy. They say this world is ultimately inconsequential. So why bother about it? So Jnana Marga is the world is treated as irrelevant, insignificant, and just redundant. But in the Bhakti, what we do is, in the Bhakti Marga, we harmonize the immediate with the ultimate. This is Bhakti. That means that, say, right now you are sitting and hearing a class. So suppose the windows over here are all open. They would all be freezing. And we say, okay, so freezing is good, we are getting realization this world is a place of distress. Well, not really. We don't just want that realization, we want realization, conviction that there is something higher, and there is something higher that can be pursued by us through our intelligence and through our practices. So for that, we try to make our physical situation as comfortable as is reasonably possible. We don't want comfortable in the sense that it's not that in a class we are going to have a bed on which everybody can lie down comfortably. No, bed is a place where you go to sleep. So comfort is not the sole thing. But it's not that comfort is a bad thing also. So the immediate matters to the extent the immediate helps us pursue the ultimate. The immediate matters to the extent it helps us pursue the ultimate. But for different people, how much that immediate matters, that can vary. See, if somebody is especially vulnerable to cold, different people have different thermal sensitivities in their bodies. Somebody is very vulnerable to cold, then maybe they need to have some more warm clothes. Maybe they sit near the heater. Maybe they have some warm drink or something they have, they take. They bolster themselves. Somebody else may not have that concern. So how much the immediate matters, that will vary from person to person. But the idea is, we don't reject the immediate in the name of the ultimate, nor do we reject the ultimate in the name of the immediate. We, Bhakti, this is the key point, and I would like to have some questions now after this. I'd like to conclude over here this point. In Bhakti, what it does is that it harmonizes what matters to us presently with what matters to us ultimately. Right? There are things that matter to us presently. So, for example, money matters to us. Now, Bhakti doesn't say that money is something which is bad, or money is something just to be given. The idea is, okay, you have money, use it in a way that can help us stabilize ourselves in life and serve Krishna. So what matters to us presently, that is used to help us connect with what matters to us ultimately. So when we function in this way, then there can be a balance. So how much should one pursue one's career? How much should one give importance to one's health? How much should one give importance to one's relationships? Well, they are all important. But they shouldn't become so important that we neglect our bhakti. At the same time, that we don't make it so unimportant in the name of bhakti that eventually, if we neglect our health, if we neglect our finances, it's not that neglect is going to be inconsequential. Eventually, if our health gets spoiled, not just we get spoiled because it's spoiled because we neglect it, then what is going to happen is, eventually, even when you want to chant, you want to serve, If our body is not cooperating, it will be very difficult for us to serve. So, harmonizing the immediate with the ultimate. That is what is the essence of bhakti. So, let's summarize what I spoke, and then if there are questions, we can discuss questions, or I can take one pastime of Mahaprabhu which illustrates what I spoke also. So I spoke broadly, three broad things. First was the many meanings of the word karma, and we focused on the primary meaning of karma as action. So the second was bhakti. We discussed bhakti primarily as the process by which we can develop divine emotions, we can develop divine love. Both of them have many meanings. We focus on one particular meaning. And then we discussed broadly about how bhakti and karma overlap or harmonize. So the idea is that bhakti includes karma within its ambit. That the process by which we develop devotion for the Lord includes bhakti. So if this is bhakti, then karma is included. And then if we say that karma deals with the immediate needs, bhakti deals with the ultimate needs. But it is not that bhakti deals with the ultimate needs. Rather, what bhakti does is, bhakti is the harmony of the immediate and the ultimate. So bhakti harmonizes our immediate with the ultimate. So any questions or comments? Yes, please.
First of all, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for that delightful talk. I have two questions. I think the second question will depend on the first question. In this day and age, when you have people, or let's say even organization, when you go out to work in a workplace scenario or in a studying scenario, you often find many people, obviously they are too much focused on the immediate context and they have no recollection or no desire to even pursue the ultimate context. Now, as devotees, obviously we have a good sense of both. We know how to balance them. But it is hard for us to convince other people to chase their ulterior motive. So in that case, will motivation suffice, or a discipline needs to be maintained in order for them to realize the ultimate purpose? Like let's say for example, we know that okay, we are doing certain good actions for the benefit of others, but we also know that it is in order to please Krishna, and in their reactions will get the falaswarup for us. So in order to maybe make other people realize that as well, would discipline come into play as motivation?
Okay. So if we are doing some acts of service which may benefit people even in the immediate context, but for people to appreciate that, would they be looking only at our motivation, or would they look at our discipline also? Is that the question broadly?
Yes, as in order to motivate people and make them understand, the ulterior context.
Ultimately.
Would you initially discipline them so that they realize, that
okay.
they're not too much focused on the immediate? That's my.
Okay, so is discipline necessary for people to see beyond the immediate context to the ultimate context? Yes, definitely. It's like a child's immediate context is, I just want to play with my toys. But the parents say, no, you play for some time, you have to study. It's a discipline. What is the point of studying? But the child starts studying, the child starts learning to read, learning to write, and a whole new universe opens at that time. Isn't it? When you learn a new language, a whole universe opens to that language. And then the child starts valuing it. So in general, the movement from the immediate context to the ultimate context, to a higher context, not necessarily ultimate, just to any higher context, that requires an impetus. Now, where does this, so to move to a bigger context, if somebody wants to move to a bigger context, how does that movement occur? Essentially, it requires an impetus. And the impetus can come from within. The The impetus can come from without, or the impetus can come from a combination. So now where it will come from, it depends. So within means, so even today there are a lot of people who want some kind of meaning in life. And say for example, we consider environmental activism. Is that immediate? Well, there is some people are just pursuing environmental concerns because of some level of immediate context. This is the earth is the only earth we have. This is the only life we have. What are we leaving for our descendants? But still, at least they're thinking of something beyond themselves and their immediate context. So how did this happen? They read about it, they heard about it, they watched something, they met some other people who were concerned about it. So it is not that everybody is only concerned about the immediate. There are people already concerned about something bigger than the immediate. And they may not, so between the immediate and the ultimate, there may be various levels of intermediate things that they are concerned about. And that is also important in some way. So sometimes some people just have a natural love for the environment and they feel, hey, what is happening? Where is the greenery of the world going? Where is the flora and fauna going? Just have immediate attraction. Sometimes it happens externally. Sometimes it can happen by internal, external. So with external means some people tell them, some people discipline them. If say the government passes a rule that nobody should use plastic bags for carry bags of below a particular thinness or very thin plastic bags. In India they pass a rule like that. So then that means we don't want to litter the world. Why should I follow this? I won't follow it. Or okay, why has the government made this rule? Let me understand. Let me explore. Oh, okay, it's the issue. It makes sense too. So, in general, if discipline is imposed without education, then it backfires. So, there has to be, the intelligence has to be educated. Which comes first, that may vary from time to place circumstance. But it's only discipline without education. Then it just creates resentment. The Bible, the Old Testament has 10 commandments. Many of them are thou shalt not. Thou shalt not, thou shalt not. So there's an atheistic gag about Christianity. So it is said, in the beginning was the Word. It's the start of the Bible. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's the start of the Genesis. The atheistic gag is, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was no. No. You can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. You know, if so people think that is all that is, if only discipline is, why should I be disciplined? A no to a particular thing has to be accompanied by a yes to something higher, yes to something bigger. So there has to be that education also. Among Indians also, there are so many cultural practices that were there in the past. If the young people are not educated about cultural practices, why should I do this? So for example, why should I eat only vegetarian food? Why can't I eat non-veg food? No, it's just our culture. Who cares for that culture? Isn't it? But then now they come to the West, they see that many Indians they think to become modern means to eat non-vegetarian food, but they come to the West and they see that Western friends are vegan. And say, oh really? And then they start inquiring, okay, yeah, maybe it's a good thing to be vegetarian. Isn't it? So what happens is that here, when people are vegan, it's a cultural trend, but it's more than a cultural trend. It's more that people are thinking about it. Why should it cause violence to animals, and there's concern. So when there are rational reasons given, then discipline becomes more easy to sustain it. Okay, so both discipline and intelligence are required. We educate the intelligence, and then we provide some discipline. If only a discipline is enforced, it doesn't work. If only intelligence is given without any discipline, then that also doesn't work. So if you want to say, if you want to pursue transcendence, basically the word transcendence we use very often, but transcendence essentially means that we are pursuing some higher meaning that transcends the immediate meaning. The pursuit of transcendence, if there is only discipline, then it leads to two things: resentment and rejection. If they can't reject it because the authority is too strong, there will be resentment. The authority is not strong enough, there will be rejection. Right? If there is only intelligence, there is education. Okay, there is a higher purpose in life. There is some bigger context you pursue. So only intelligence but no discipline. Then that leads either to frustration. Frustration means, yeah, I know this is a good thing, but I just can't do it. And eventually it can lead to guilt. See, because alone, without any supportive structure, it's very difficult to change ourselves. So when both of these are together, then the pursuit of transcendence becomes easier. There is discipline and intelligence. Now, according to context, which comes first will vary. Ideally, both go together, that is the best. Thank you, good question.
Ravi, one.
Yeah.
One another question. Like you beautifully described Bhakti as like the focus ratio between pursuing the immediate context and the ultimate context.
The focus ratio.
Focus ratio as in like
Harmonization.
Harmonization. So in order to like correctly harmonize it, then would practice and patience come into the picture as well, because you realize the immediate context in which your actions are creating, and then you realize the ultimate as well. So in order to nicely balance it out, because as devotees we are all pursuing, we are all experimenting with tons of things. So then would practice and patience playing in as well, and would we have to focus on practicing?
Oh, of course. So
and patience.
So patience, generally the word patience, there are three things which are required in the practice of bhakti. Going to success is Utsaha, Nishchaya, Dhairya. So Utsaha is what? Enthusiasm. Nishchaya is faith. Dhairya is patience. Conviction. So these three are all required if you want to grow spiritually. So how it works is that when we are trying to connect the immediate with the ultimate, that it requires energy, it requires enthusiasm. That most people may say, I just will work for the immediate, why do I have to work for the ultimate? So enthusiasm is the energy to connect both of the two together. Energy to connect both. Both means immediate and ultimate. If you talk about patience, patience is the readiness to try. Sometimes we do a job and we get so caught in the job that we forget completely about Krishna. And then we come to temple and we feel so much happy. Why do I have to do a job also? So we will just go through extreme like that. So patience is what needed to find balance. It's like the pendulum. It's not that if you just leave a pendulum, automatically come to center. It will go this way, it will go this way. Gradually it comes to center. So patience is needed for everyone. And faith is that faith is actually the idea that the two are harmonizable. Sometimes we feel, in today's environment it's impossible to practice bhakti. Well, no, bhakti is transcendental, means that it transcends every environment. It can be practiced in every environment. So that the two are connectable. Now, can every aspect of the material world be connected with every aspect of bhakti? Well, not necessarily. But that is so we can say that somebody is going to work in a bar. For that person to be conscious of Krishna, is it possible? Well, possible. Somebody can work in a slaughterhouse. Is it possible to be Krishna conscious? Well, a person working in a slaughterhouse can also be Krishna conscious. But a person who is Krishna conscious will not prefer to work in a slaughterhouse. It's making it much more difficult for us, isn't it? So, there are some forms of immediate which make it very difficult to connect with the ultimate. Some aspects of the immediate may be much relatively easier to connect with the ultimate. So that is there. And some forms of the ultimate are more easily connectable with also. If you want to hear, we can hear anywhere, in the sense that we can just have some earphone and we can hear. Nowadays with Zoom and everything like that. But if you want to go and worship in the temple, you want to worship the deities, then maybe that we can't do everywhere. We can't worship the deities in our office. If our family is not practicing bhakti, we may not be able to have deities in our home. But there also we can hear classes. So which aspect of the immediate can be connected with which aspect of the ultimate? That will require some experimentation. That's why these three negatives. I have to keep trying. Enthusiasm, patience, faith. The two are connectable in principle. Which will connect well, and I have to try it. I can't give up because it didn't work. And to make something work, I have to keep repeating, I have to keep trying. Okay? Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thanks for a wonderful class. So the point that you told about the Gyan Marg, where invaders invaded India because people were thinking of the void sense, like nothing's going to happen. But in Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrit, there are two instances where first Prabhupada went to meet his spiritual master, like on his first instance, and he asked him a question. And he asked him the question that there was a discussion.
Prabhupada's spiritual master told that the independence movement is just irrelevant. Focus on Krishna consciousness.
And then there was this another one where he met his spiritual master met Netaji's Version, and he questioned that you should.
That's a good point. Good point. So, is it also bhakti also consider the immediate to be unimportant? Because Prabhupada's spiritual master told that why bother about independence? This is all temporary. And even Subhash Chandra Bose wanted to recruit people for the independence struggle, Bhakti was not very positive in his response. Well, again, context matters. See, Bhakti Thakur was not that in principle the political administration of the country was completely irrelevant. What he was saying is that for somebody who can do spiritual activity, who can do spiritual outreach, for that person to get involved in political activism, in political agitation, that is not required. It is not that it shouldn't be done, it is not that you have to do it. So those who were coming to, especially when Netaji Subhash Bose had come, he wanted that the members of the Gaudiya Math, they joined the Indian independence struggle. And Bhakti Thakur sort of dodged the issue by saying, for fighting you need well-built people. You just look at our sannyasis, they are so thin. What can they do? They can't really fight. But Netaji also didn't really push the matter too much over there. But the point was, these were people who, if they're already so dedicated, they renounced the world. And they were not the typical like beggars who just put on saffron robes. They were actually, many of Bhakti Thakur also well-educated, talented, competent people who had dedicated themselves to the pursuit of transcendence. And for them, Bhakti Thakur said that there's no need for them to get involved. But if you really consider political change to be utterly unimportant, in fact, the whole purpose of avatar, dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge. You see, Krishna descended to bring about a political change in the kingdom, isn't it? Isn't it? So Kauravas were ruling, and they were vicious in their own way. So Krishna replaced them with the Pandavas. Then even Lord Ram fought a war. At one level it was to regain Sita, but it was also to free the world from the terror of Ravana. And then what happened after? Political change came about. The political change was not like colonization. It is not that Lord Ram annexed Lanka and made it a part of Ayodhya. No, Lanka can have its own ethnicity, it can have its own identity. Its own people will rule Lanka. It is not that somebody from Ayodhya will be remotely ruling Lanka. It was not like that. It was that Lord Ram replaced Ravan with a virtuous member of that same dynasty. But it was a political change. So then we see that Ram and Krishna had descended in Kshatriya families. And they will take Kshatriya roles. If somebody is a Kshatriya, then they have to do the Kshatriya duty. And that means having virtuous, competent political administration. And for that they made changes. But in general, if you look at the Gaudiya tradition itself, most of the leaders in the Gaudiya tradition were Brahmanas. So Mahaprabhu was a Brahmana and a sannyasi. So they don't get involved in political change. But Prabhupada himself at one time formed a political party in America. He called it the In God We Trust political party. And Prabhupada says, entering into politics is there's one advantage. He said, you can criticize people freely. Criticize your opponents freely. Now Prabhupada was initially very enthusiastic. But then suddenly Prabhupada seemed to lose enthusiasm. So there's one devotee, Balwant Prabhu. Prabhupada said, Prabhupada told him, you campaign, you can become the next president of America. Prabhupada said that. So but then one day he came to Prabhupada. He said, Prabhupada, are you no longer enthusiastic about the political part? I said, I'm enthusiastic. But just don't ask me for any money. What he meant by that was that at that time our movement was very small and we had limited financial resources. And Prabhupada was in principle enthusiastic about the idea, but actually to fund a candidate, it requires a huge amount of money. It's not just giving some speeches. You have to do publicity, you have to have media management. And Prabhupada said that the funds that we have were far better utilized to do direct spiritual outreach than to do political change. So in principle, he was not against that. In practice, he felt that is not an important priority for a spiritual organization. But tomorrow or in future, some devotees who already have political aspirations, who have political abilities. Here I am using political not in the sense of politicking, which is a nasty word. Political in the functional sense. Politics is basically the art of administration. Every society needs a political organization. So if some devotees have that interest, that ability, then they can do it. It's not that ISKCON is going to enter into politics, but ISKCON is not going to stop its members from entering into politics, isn't it? ISKCON is giving spiritual principles and other devotees can do various things. So we don't consider the immediate to be unimportant. It's just that we as a spiritual movement don't focus on the immediate directly. Good question. Thank you. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhuji, what's your opinion on free will? There are philosophers in the West who believe that there's an equational identity to the universe. So how does karma come into play? Do we choose our own actions or are we just puppets to the pre-written rules of the universe?
So, do we choose our own action or are we puppets to the pre-written rules of the universe? Well, it's both. There are rules that govern the functioning of things in the world, and those rules restrict us all in particular ways. The example that in the Bhagavad Gita is given in 9.6 is Yatha Akash Sthito Nityam Vayu Sarvatra Go Mahan Dhat Sarvani Bhutani Matsthani Tyopadharaya. So if you consider the sky to be like an upside down bowl, now within that upside down bowl, the wind can move left, it can move right, it can move upward, it can move upward, it can move downward. All these directions can move. So the movement of the air is not restricted. However, the area of the movement is restricted. So similarly, it says that we all have free will, but the area over which we can exercise our free will, that is limited. So we could say that if I am a person over here, so then I have a particular area around me, that is my kshetra, that is my sphere of influence, field of influence. So within that field of influence, I can act. And of course, this field of influence is also not fixed. It can also be, say for example, if I get angry, I might just yell at someone. If some thug on the street gets angry, that person might just beat someone. If some person from the mafia gets angry, they'll just go around shooting people. If the president of America gets angry, they might just nuke a city. So, every person has different kshetra. Now, why is that person having the president of America having that kshetra? Well, that's because of past karma. Because the past karma, that person was meant to become powerful, influential. Now, how they use that influence, that depends. So, we all have a certain area of influence which is determined by our past karma, and within that area, we have free will. And how long we have that area will also vary. Now, while the President of India, while the current incumbent is the President of America, they can nuke a city. After that president retires or after that president is defeated, they can press as many buttons as what I want. Nothing is going to get in the way. So our area of influence also changes. So the rules of the universe, broadly speaking, say for example, we human beings can't fly. We can fly with the airplane, but we can't fly on our own. That's a rule of the universe. Now, why have we got a body with this kind of limitation? That's our past karma. So our past actions, they determine the particular rules of the universe that will apply to us in that particular context, the particular limitations of the will function. But within that, we have free will. Any other questions? Yes.
I was just wondering, whenever we have an aim or work towards something, I think Krishna can give us a lot of like challenges and obstacles in our path, and sometimes it's not easy to know if it's just a test of our determination, or if it's a sign that that's not the right thing for us to do. And you can even see in Srila Prabhupada's life, with some things he was very determined, and other things he gave up very quickly. So how do we know which one it is?
So, if we are trying to do some service and it's not working out, then how do we know whether it's a test of our persistence or it's just that it's not suitable for us, it's incompatible, we should be trying something else? Well, there is no absolute way to know. In general, it is that we learn about ourselves by experience. So how do we know what is really incompatible for us or compatible for us? Everything new might feel exciting and adventurous initially, but afterwards it can become stale and monotonous after some time. And sometimes even something which is compatible to us, even that may not always be exciting. You say, I like writing. I find the deepest absorption comes to me in writing. But it's not that the absorption comes all the time. There are times when I know thoughts are coming, or right words are not coming to express the thoughts. That can be very frustrating. So if we rely only on our emotions, both emotions about what I am doing and emotions about the results I am getting from what I am doing. If we rely only on our emotions, then we won't be able to function sustainably in any field. Even when we look at somebody who is successful, often we hear about people who persisted so many times. Say this person, say Edison, tried inventions for hundreds and hundreds of times and finally succeeded. And that is often given as an example of how we should determine how to persist. Well, yes, that's one way of looking at it, and it's an important way. But another way of looking at it is also that Edison loved science. So science was naturally compatible for him. If somebody had told Edison to become a tennis player and he lost one match, and second match, and third match, and fourth match, would he have persisted? No, the very fact that he persisted indicated that there was some intrinsic joy in what he was doing. So, for all of us, when we want to find what is the way we should serve Krishna, we look at both the things. We look at the extrinsic result. It's not that the external result doesn't matter for us. It also matters, but we also look at whether this is giving me some internal satisfaction. So compatibility is seen through internal satisfaction. So generally we look at these two things. Krishna talks about guna and talks about karma. Guna karma vibhagasha. So guna can be when we have the guna, the quality for doing something, then we feel comfortable doing it. We feel good doing it. if somebody does music, just feel very, just they start playing some music and they play this musical instrument and they feel so peaceful, so much, they feel at peace with themselves basically, or at peace with the universe. Karma means, if we have karma for something, then we are competent at the thing. Now some people may do some music and they may feel at peace with themselves. But if they don't have the skill, then they take away everyone else's peace. Sometimes some people don't know any music and they come here kirtan and they start playing karma. They're doing all out of tune and they are in bliss. Everybody else is fuming. So, what we want is this intersection. Can we find something which we are good at and which we also feel good doing? And it's not that we may discover it immediately, it may take some time. So when we feel good doing something, when we are good at doing something, we will eventually get the results in that. When we feel good doing it, then we will be able to sustain it even if the results don't come. So the idea is that we serve Krishna according to our nature. That's why Bhakti, one of the key things in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna quickly says is, Swakarmanatam Vyachya. By your work, worship the Lord. Swabhava Jena Kaunte. Use your Swabhava to serve the Lord. So that our Swabhava, we could say that one part is the immediate. Use our immediate to connect with the ultimate.
Hare Krishna. Just in connection with this question, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that we should do our duty even if we don't get some result, rather than doing someone else's duty perfectly. So does that imply that guna is a priority over competency karma?
Oh, okay. There Krishna says, do your own dharma, shreyan sadharma guna pradharma sunishita. Krishna says that. Does that mean that Krishna is priority guna or karma? He's talking about shreyan sadharma guna. Well, that's a very different context. Let's try to first understand the Gita's context. In the Gita's context, Arjuna was thinking that, let me forgive the Kauravas. Let us avoid this war completely. Now, forgiveness is very important as an individual virtue. We all will do some mistakes. We all will rub each other the wrong way sometime or the other. We should be willing to forgive. But forgiveness cannot be the default state policy. If somebody comes to our home as a guest and they steal something from our home, we feel enraged. But then we come to know, you're a friend, you're my relative, okay. We might just let them go. If we understand what they were going through, what they were thinking, we might let them go. But if the government makes a policy, any thief can go and rob any shop, any home, we'll forgive them. That will lead to chaos, isn't it? During the pandemic, California made a rule that anybody who robs any supermarket up to a tune of less than $600, they got no action against that. And they thought people will just take some bread and basic food. But though people were actually taking some Louis Vuitton purses and things like that, and then they're selling it on eBay and other places. So forgiveness cannot be a default state policy. So forgiveness is a Brahminical virtue. The Kshatriya virtue is justice, not forgiveness. Kshatriyas can also be forgiving at times. But when we go to the court, it's a court of justice, it's not a court of forgiveness. Isn't it? Sometimes the court may also forgive. So what Krishna was telling Arjuna is, you are a Kshatriya. Your duty is to pursue justice. But if you start pursuing forgiveness, non-violence, you will not be able to sustain it. Today you may say that, yeah, it's okay, I'll just let it go. But tomorrow you will see somebody else doing some atrocity against you or somebody else. And at that time, when you see that atrocity, you will not be able to stay peaceful. But if you have taken on the role of a Brahmana at that time, then for you to fight will be inappropriate. If somebody is a cop and they stop a criminal, they can use a gun to stop criminals. But somebody resigns as a cop, and then they are going along the road and they see some criminal and they go and shoot the criminal. there shooting a criminal would also be a criminal activity, isn't it? So Krishna is saying, this is your vocation, this is what you should be doing. That's the immediate context of that particular verse. That's Shriyan Swadharma Viguna. That now, in terms of guna and karma, Arjuna, both his guna and karma were of a Kshatriya. He was very competent as an archer, and that's what he was immersed in. We know that story when he was eating food. Once he used to practice archery constantly, and then when it was dark, he couldn't practice it. But then, when he was eating food at night, the candle went away because of a candle got extinguished because of a gust of wind, and he kept eating food. And he thought, hey, if I can eat food in the dark, why can't I shoot in the dark? And he started practicing archery based on just sound and other awareness. So that was his guna also. Now, for us in our particular situations, and it said we should stick to our duty. Well, today we don't live in a stratified society, a structured society where society will tell us what is our duty. We have to investigate and understand what our swabha is. And in some situations, we might have to prioritize karma over guna. That means, this is what I feel good doing, but this is what is valued in society, this is what is more lucrative for me. Maybe I want financial stability more right now. So maybe I'll take a job which is more financial. I'm not bad at that, not necessarily I'm bad at that, but I don't really feel good at that so much. So we might have to sometimes prioritize karma or guna. Sometimes we prioritize guna or karma. Even I can take a cut in my paycheck, but I want to feel that my work is meaningful and my work gives me some fulfillment. That will vary from person to person. Thank you. Yes. Do let me know, Alakanta, when we should stop.
So I had this question that related to karma. I have often listened to people saying that if something good happens, that Krishna's mercy, but if something bad happens, that's our own karma. So how to cut that? Because it's a very prominent question while you teach someone. Like my friend, she's an atheist, and she was asking me that nature is beautiful because it's God, but there is pollution because a human did it. So that how to.
Okay. So sometimes when something good happens, we say it is Krishna's mercy, but when something bad happens, then we try to blame it on human causes. So why is that consistent? Well, it's not that it's inconsistent, it's just that we have to understand the hierarchy of causes. And there is a particular cause that we prioritize at a particular time. So, in general, like somebody would say that Prabhupada himself said that I didn't write my books. It's Krishna who wrote his books. But that's true. Prabhupada was in connection with Krishna. Prabhupada was inspired by Krishna. But if Krishna wrote the books, why did Prabhupada put his name as the author? Why call them Prabhupada's books? Why not call them Krishna's books? Yes, Krishna is the ultimate inspiration, but Prabhupada is the instrument. And the ultimate and the immediate work together. So, similarly, now that applies for pure devotee, of course, but for us, for every situation, any action that happens, intelligence needs to place events in the most constructive causal context. Causal context means, what is the cause of this? Say if right now, one of us starts feeling cold, and we say, hey, at the temperature, maybe I need some shawl. But say, why am I feeling cold? Maybe I got some fever, I have to go to a doctor. Why am I feeling cold? Maybe somebody kept the door open over there, let's close the door. Why am I feeling cold? Yeah, because, we humans have polluted the environment and there's climate change because I'm feeling cold. Maybe that's a cause. But if some guest comes to our house and says, I'm feeling cold, yeah, what to do, there's climate change. That's not the responsible or constructive causal context to place it in. At that time, what can I do about it? So, in every situation, we need to use our intelligence to recognize which causal context is constructive. Which causal context is constructive means I can do something about it. It's actionable and it's responsible. And we do that normally, but sometimes when we learn philosophy, we may start misapplying the philosophy and then we start escalating everything to the philosophical or ultimate causal context. That may not be necessary all the time. So generally, if something good has happened to us, as devotees, we want to cultivate humility, we want to cultivate remembrance of Krishna. And that is why we say this Krishna's mercy. Now, of course, it could be our endeavor was there. If a devotee had an accident and then they had a surgery and they survived, the difficult surgery, they survived. We say it's Krishna's mercy that they survived. Does that mean we are not going to pay the doctors who did the surgery? Are we saying that we don't give credit to the surgeons? No, not like that. We acknowledge them also. But we want to be Krishna conscious. That's why we look at the Krishna factor. But if we want to, if a devotee close to us is taking treatment, then we would want to know how can we ensure that the devotee gets the best treatment. We want to say, Krishna will take care of him. I want to serve, I want to take care. So I look at the immediate context also and make sure that the devotee gets the best doctor, best medical care. So it's a matter of what is our purpose over there. Our purpose is to enhance our Krishna consciousness. We look at the Krishna factor in some situations. Our purpose, even to enhance our Krishna consciousness, sometimes we may look at the immediate context and we focus on what is the best practical place in which I can render the service to Krishna. So, with respect to atheism, now with respect to pollution, you say, yeah, nature is beautiful because of God. That's true. But when pollution is because of humans, well, that's not necessarily incompatible, because nature is untouched by man's toxic influence. Whereas when nature is touched or contaminated by humanity's destructive influence, that's when pollution and other things happen, environmental degradation happens. So the point is the solution. See, when we are looking at the beauty of nature, is it that a devotee is unaware of, say, biology and topology and other such natural geological phenomena? No, a devotee can also learn about this. But at that particular time when we behold, our purpose is to remember Krishna. So we look at the beauty of nature, we will remember Krishna. But when we see natural balances being disrupted, at that time, everybody goes, what can I do about it? So the way I serve Krishna is by learning to myself take more responsibility and encouraging a thought of environmental responsibility in human society. So it's a more constructive context that we have. And it is only when we reject the immediate completely, or we trivialize or even ridicule the immediate, that is when it's a problem. That's not what as devotees we do. We respect the immediate at its place. Prabhupada even said that we appreciate the scientist's desire to know, their knowing spirit. It's only their atheism that we are against. They want to find some immediate context in which some explanations can be had. That's perfectly fine. When the apple fell on Newton, some people say it fell in front of him, some people say on him, wherever it fell. It fell on his head. When the apple fell on his head, now Newton believed in God. And he himself, but when he wanted to know what made the apple fall, he was not interested in God. God made the apple fall. He was not looking for the immediate cause. He was looking for he was not looking for the ultimate cause. He was looking for the immediate cause, the mechanical aspect, the mechanism that made the apple fall. Now, when he came to know about gravity, the first of two things over here. Newton's acceptance of God did not stop him from looking for the immediate cause. And then his discovery of the mathematical equation for the immediate cause did not detract him from God. He said the laws of gravity, the laws of motion, they point to an intelligent creator. So that's a good example of we can value the immediate and we can value the ultimate also. In fact, generally atheists do the opposite. Or those who are atheistic bent, everybody gets some good lucky breaks in their life. Everybody has bad luck, but everybody has lucky breaks also. If we have a job, if we get a job. Now there's so many people might apply for the same job, but they don't get, we get it. We all can look at our lives when we got some lucky breaks. Lucky break basically means that if it were solely based on a qualification, there might be a dozen other people who could have got it, but we got it. So it's a lucky break. Sometimes we get something good that is more than what we deserve, and sometimes we get something bad that is more than we deserve. Good that is better than what we deserve, and bad that is worse than what we deserve. So when we get bad that is worse than we deserve, we blame it on God. And when we say good that is better than we deserve, we say good luck. So that's inconsistent. If you are going to blame God for the bad, then you should give credit to God for the good also. Otherwise, don't bring God in the picture either way. Thank you. You have any comments, questions? You are a silent sage. Observing and blessing all of us.
We'd like to thank you, Chaitanya Charan, for coming here and enlightening us and taking your valuable time. And I think it's been a very enlightening session. Would you all agree?
Yes.
We will have 3 Haribols for Chaitanya Charan Prabhu.
Haribol!